Hello, friends. It's Steph from the StephUp podcast. I am so excited to share with you that the StephUp podcast is being featured in Acast and Amazon Music's Indie Podcast Amplifier. It is such an honor to be part of this collection alongside other inspiring Canadian indie creators. You can head over to Amazon Music's podcast page to check it out and support independent voices like mine. Thanks for listening, for learning, and for growing with me. Hello and welcome to the StephUp podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Ann Webb. And on today's podcast, I have my friend and business partner, an amazing human, Jamie Tedrick-Monroe. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Steph. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the StephUp podcast. And this is the finale of season 4. So you are my ender for season 4, which is really
Woo!
exciting. Yay! So, you and I are going to talk about authenticity, but first, I was wondering if you can introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, a little bit about your story and what you do.
So my name is Jamie. I am the founder of Safe to Talk to, and I believe that it's not really about fixing people because people aren't really broken, and our world teaches us today that we're broken and that we have to fit in this box. So I'm a counselor who kind of went rogue from the counseling scene and stepped out on my own way due to some authentic stuff. I am an author, a life coach, um, and a grandmother who just loves to make tie-dyes, connect with others, and provide a safe space and community to talk to.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're very real, very authentic. And that word gets thrown around like crazy nowadays. It's like the new cool word. Such a cliche now, I suppose. But the funny thing is, when you and I first talked, I felt just safe talking with you because, and you and I have talked about this before, previous experience within a lot of the entrepreneurial spaces, a lot of the life coaching spaces that I've been in, there can be such, first of all, it's a big sales pitch. Um, so I'm now wary of anybody who messages me about something, but also you cannot just, I have to be very careful with how I say things or not being too vulnerable because then they kind of attack you with, I'll fix you. I'm like, wait a
Right.
minute, I'm not looking for you to fix me. I thought I was talking to a safe person. I thought I was talking to a friend. And then, oh, here, take my course. Here. So, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, you're not my people. And you did
I,
not
I
do
think
that with
that
me.
I think that authenticity, when you're truly authentic, it allows people to feel safe, as you said, and more connected. But it builds a foundation of trust. Whereas so many others are just performing, they want to get that sale, like you said, and they're not actually being authentic with themselves. Maybe the world teaches them, hey, you have to do this instead of, being your true self. But literally, there's nothing like being authentic, and it provides that foundation of trust that performance can't provide.
And you made a good point. The world tells us these things because I do see the people and I know they're doing the thing that they've been told. This is how you market. This is what you do. And I did it as well. But when you then come out of just coming out of, I guess, it becoming a sales thing and a pushy thing, when you're energetically, I think, confident in knowing sales will come. And I think this is also where manifesting can come in, just believing that as you go do your thing, things will flow towards you. That saved my life. And I got out of all the marketing ploys tactics because that was just like, I can rest in this knowing I can be me and I don't have
It's
to
the
be.
the freedom.
It is freedom.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, like you said, manifesting, it's kind of like it brings us into alignment. It aligns our words, our actions, our values, and that overflows into people and it shows. And so many people don't realize that. But if you're not, being your true self and you're just trying to perform, you know, you're kind of a slave. And the world tries to fit us in this little box. Like you have to work a 9 to 5. You have to get married. You have to be straight. You have to do this. You have to buy this type of food. And oh, well, you have to do it my way. Well, what about doing it your own individual way and not doing it the world's way? We're the ones that they say, oh, don't talk to them. Those people are crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. But literally, it's the freedom to, take away the shoulds because it everybody is different. And that goes back to being not judgmental. And when you're not judgmental of others, you allow them to be their authentic self.
Judgment is a huge thing. I oh my God. You and I grew up very judgmental and critical. Oh, there was something you said about vulnerability. And
Um,
I don't know if I can remember what you said specifically, but bringing up vulnerability, I know you're very much like you've talked about when you go online and you post, you're like, I'm going to post when I'm feeling like shit because that's showing people that,
who you really are.
and you're human. And
It,
that
it, you know, it, it shows them because I know for me, I've had my own battles with depression and mental health and all that, but it's a life thing. It's not a if you're going to go through depression, because everybody, whether they want to admit it or not, goes through that at one point in their life. They may not realize that, but I mean, everybody deals with that inner conscience and that voice that tries to self-sabotage us. And that vulnerability and sharing that true self with others helps others see that, hey, I'm not alone. Other people go through this. Like, hey, this is okay. You know, um, there are people who understand because if you don't have somebody that you feel understands and that you can talk to, it can be so easy for imposter syndrome to take over. Well, I'm not good enough because they're doing this, and I can't do this because of this, and I can't act like myself because they expect me to be like this. Not all relationships that we have are meant to last forever. And if you can't be authentic with somebody, maybe it's time to question that relationship. It doesn't mean that you have to cut them off. That just means that they're not up here at this level, they're down here. And we don't always want to come down here, but sometimes there are people in our life that we can't remove, even though it's not authentic to us. Does that make sense? Like sometimes we'll have family that sometimes we have to be around, but for me, I always I used to think that it was anxiety and panic. I used to get this big ball of like what I thought was absolute fear in the middle of my gut. And I used to tell people that's anxiety and it cripples me. And it wasn't until I did my own shadow work and worked through that I was able to identify that that wasn't anxiety per se. It was me trying to be inauthentic or trying to shift towards others and not be my true self. If we listen to ourselves, our body will always tell us when we're not authentic.
that's a great point. And there's two things I want to add to that. So when I used to work at a bank and I was at a call center, and that's when the anxiety and depression I had for years really culminated. Like it was bad. And And my friend was like, you need to go to the doctor. I think you might have this. And I was like, oh my God. And then I got on short-term leave. And it was so helpful to know. And yeah, I was on medication for that at the time. And it was what I needed. And then I would talk about it at work. And, I'm in a business, but I'm not a businessy person, Jamie. I'm like
Right.
just me talking like whatever. But I always got in trouble because my boss sat right in front of me. Anyways, so I would talk about anxiety because I was so excited to know, oh my God, this is what I struggled with for forever since I was a kid. And I would, well, stop talking about Stephanie. But one of my friends that I had started at the call center with, I thought she's got it all figured out. Like she doesn't have any issues like me. Do you know what? She told me, I have anxiety. I think I have anxiety. And she told me because she's like, you talk about it. I feel safe that I can tell you. She can't talk to everyone else who's like, oh, Stephanie, that's not real. Oh, Stephanie, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
She's talking to me because I'm like, wait, this is a thing that I'm dealing with, and this is where I'm at. When I was in therapy, I was working on it, but it's important to talk about it because then, like you said, we don't feel alone because when everyone else is perfect, and I'm putting that in quotes, because they act like they've got it all figured out, those of us struggling are like, well, they've got it made. They're doing well. They're perfect. And I'm just one of those whose lives suck. That's what I used to believe about myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And so many don't want to talk about it, but I think that it fuels transformation, we give ourselves permission to be authentic. It fuels transformation and helps others transform because it helps them to then become their true authentic self. Because we're not taught, we're okay, for us, maybe, our generation, when we were younger, we were taught that you don't talk about things, you don't talk about how you're feeling, you don't tell people what goes on in your life. We were taught, again, it goes back to that box. We were taught, everything stays in the house, in the family, you don't talk to other people. So it is transforming being able to see somebody else open that door because you showed them. And I think that that's amazing that she felt comfortable enough to reach out to you and be like, thank you so much for sharing, because isn't that what it's all about? Just letting people know that we're not broken.
Mhm. And that was the first time I really realized, wait a minute, it's good that I was talking about this. And to feel safe, people talk all the time about, you have to, like in the manifestation world, you have to be feeling happy and like feeling good. And it's like, but if your nervous system is not there yet, your nervous system has to feel safe. And I never felt safe, whether it was around certain family members, at church, the places I was supposed to feel safe. At times I would, but rarely, because also I felt the inauthenticity of it. I knew that there was bullshit beyond everything else, but also because I wasn't safe to be me and show up as me. And I was always like in trouble for saying whatever I would say. Um, so when you have somebody who's like just sitting with you without judgment and you're feeling heard, your nervous system is just like, oh, I can relax.
Yeah. And then you can be your true self. Um, and you're not on edge all the time.
Yeah. That's so important. I think people are talking about this more, at least as far as what I'm seeing online. Uh, but it wasn't really talked about. It was just like toxic positivity. And then like, oh, you have to be doing well. And people struggling because they're dealing with trauma. They're dealing with all this stuff, their nervous system. They're dealing with anxiety and depression and all these different things. They're like, oh, how? Because you're not talking about your nervous system needs to be in a safe, regulated place.
Right.
But I love that there's more talk about this now. Like, how can we do this? How can we help people? How can we be there? Um, and what you were mentioning before, without judgment is key.
That is key because it can hold us back. And then when you feel that, you start comparing yourself to others. And, that holds us back because we're like, oh, I can't do this because of all this. And, it goes back to that feeling in your gut and your nervous system. Because if that's all out of whack and somebody is like, oh, you need to breathe deep, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, but if you've got something out of whack inside, then like you cut off and you don't even hear it because your inner voice is it's kind of like an inner critic, kind of attacks us in a way, and then it keeps us small in the box. How did you how did you help with integrating your nervous system?
Oh, that that's been a lot of different things in a long time. I mean, I was so thirsty for knowledge for how do I find how do I heal? Because I've been to therapists, I've been to life coaches, and all of them taught me things along the way. Um, but for me, the hugest part was actually leaving my religion. Because that was shame-based, fear-based. Um, Coming towards more of a love and peace um belief about it's all love. We're all one. That
Yeah,
really
the
helped
unity.
the unity. That helped me because in a fear-based religion, you're constantly stressed and anxious and fearing everything. Um, that I think that was the hugest part for me. But also working on my thoughts, my mindset, working on gratitude, like the things that they do tell us, it takes the practice, it takes the work, but it is the work. That is what it is. But it's not just throw this at you and that's how you do it. Like it takes a
Some dig
while.
in deep work because I like how you said it's the work because you can be told something all day long and you can read something all day long. But if you're not actually willing to put in those practices and to do that and ingrain it into your nervous system, then it's like still, 100 people can go take a class and be like, oh yeah, and then 50 of them go out and implement it, and a month later they're way up here, and the other ones are still down here being like, well, why didn't we get it? Well, did you implement it? Because you can't just tell somebody something
That
and
reminds
not
me.
implement it.
That reminds me. So I was at um, a university in Toronto, and I knew friends going into psychology and then doing their masters in counseling, and I knew a few of them after they got their degree and everything. And one of my friends dated one of the guys. Anyways, I had this belief that, oh, well, but he's a counselor. He got his degree in counseling and he treats you like that. Like it was such a toxic relationship. And then others would say things to me and I'm like, you got your master's in counseling and you're saying that to me as a friend. And that's when I know I'm kind of dense at times, but that's when I realized you can get your degree and you can get the piece of paper, but you're not very good at your job. You have not taken it and done any of the work. And I would never go to you as a counselor. And you worked as a counselor and you had that experience with many people.
I did, listen, it was that, so I have 14 years clean in recovery, and that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But literally, it was somebody, probably like us, that literally believed in unity and non-judgmental and met me where I was and never once said, you have to do that. For once, they just sat and listened to me. And where everybody else is like, they try to use the book smart. Well, this says this and blah, 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 blah. No, you're talking at me. I want you to talk to me. Like, there's a difference between being talked at and talked to. And a lot of why I left the field I was in.
Well, and it burned you out. Like I can't
It
imagine.
does. Yeah, it
that kind
does.
of work. So was that when you were going through all the stuff you were dealing with? Was that the thing that really first started helping you? Was somebody was just there talking with you?
Um,
Or
Looking back, yeah, because everybody else was just trying to put all these rules and stipulations in front of me. And, you can't drink for or it wasn't even drinking. I was a heroin user, opiates, back when it was actually that. And that was triggered from cancer. So literally, it was watching one team of doctors judge me because the very prescriptions they had me on then yanked me off of after 3 years. And then they didn't want to help me. And back then they didn't know all that stuff. So I used to chalk it up to like maybe they just don't know. They just don't know. And it took a long time. And then I came across and met somebody who literally, I just needed to be heard. I needed to be heard at that time and talked with. And she was so honest. She's like, I don't have the answers, Jamie, but we'll find them together. And to find a therapist that was like that, you know, she was authentic. She was being her true self. And instead of the box that the companies try to place you in, and I'm not downplaying counseling because I know some amazing counselors, but I also know that there's a lot of trauma caused within therapy. And you know what somebody is talking about when they go into therapy shouldn't be the same thing necessarily they're talking about a year later, that's how the same conversation comes up. So, no, I'm here. I'm not there anymore. Stop trying to place me back there. So I found somebody who understood that, and she actually helps me. I was a computer programmer. I definitely was not a counselor. I am the most extroverted introvert ever. I don't like people at all. I'll be the first one to tell you. I don't like people. I don't like them. But
that
I
so funny.
love them all. Okay. I don't like anybody, but I love everybody. And that mentality goes back to not being judged for beliefs. And when that really started shifting for me, was somebody had given me a book and I started questioning religion. And so that also was a big opener and led me down a couple rabbit holes. And then I started seeing that my jobs and stuff didn't align with who I was. And I was starting to get that feeling in my gut. And I thought it was panic and anxiety that every time I show up to work and try to talk to my bosses or my peers that, I'd be like, it's debilitating. And so literally, I knew that something was wrong, and that happened again and again. And I was like, oh, yeah, maybe it's just the job. I'll go to a different job. And then, I left a long-term job in 3 times, and I was like, dude, I still feel this. And that's when I was like, well, what is this? Oh, and the more I started being authentic to who I was and putting up boundaries, being like, no, you're not going to treat me like that. No, you're not going to treat the clients like that. It shifted, and nobody wanted to talk with me anymore. Nobody wanted to hang out with Jamie anymore because now I have boundaries because I'm being my true self. And it's like, okay, well, guess what? My tribe will come. It's okay.
And this is the wonderful thing about meeting people online because I meet other HSP highly sensitives and empaths and introverts and I was like, where have you people been all my life? Because I was surrounded and I feel like most of the world, maybe, I don't know, but oh, there's so much of extrovert and everything is for the extrovert. Like youth group, they made us do these horrible games, group games, and I was like, oh God, I can't do these. And then I get in trouble for running away and hiding in the bathroom. And so Sorry. But that is all meant for people. So I thought, what's wrong with me? And it wasn't until my mid 20s when I first did Myers-Briggs and I found out, oh, I'm an introvert. What? I'm
It
not a
makes so
weirdo
much
freak.
sense.
Like I got teased at. I went to the Christian school, and I remember my friends at one time, they're like, you love TV more than God. And I was like, no, I don't. They were like, well, would you much rather stay home and watch TV than go to church? And I said, yes. But Jamie, I'm an introvert, and church was full of fakey, extroverted, popular kids that were just flirting with each other. Like it was just it was the same
The
as school, but it
hangout.
was church. And I just didn't I didn't really fit there. So of course I'd rather stay home because I was a homebody. I didn't enjoy
And
the
you felt
people.
comfortable at home.
And I felt comfortable mostly with my non-Christian friends too, which was so funny because I got told I like to just sin. And I was like, no, these are real people. I don't have to fakey fake around them. So that whole authenticity, when we talk about that, I'm just like, authenticity, and I don't, you must have also come into this. Sometimes people say, well, I'm just being authentically me, but really they're just being rude and abrasive and just saying it like it is. So when that comes up, how do you handle like when somebody thinks that that's what authenticity is? Because I know that people question that. I questioned that at one point.
Say that again. When
So if somebody is just like, let's say they're just um they don't care what they say. They're abrasive. They
oh,
just
they
tell
have
you
no
like it is.
filter.
They have no filter. They don't care if they've hurt anybody's feeling. And they're like, I'm just being authentic. I'm just being myself. That's not the authenticity we're talking about.
Right. That's the authenticity of I can say whatever I want to whoever I want, and they don't really care about how the other person feels. To them, it's just being about what they want and speaking what they want. It's and that's a hard I was probably I was probably like that at once too, where
I
I'm
think
like,
we all were.
no, it has to be this way and this way and this way. And then you're always like, oh, well, how come nobody wants to really talk to me? They always want to push me away. And I'm projecting my own stuff onto them and thinking that that's authenticity. But authenticity isn't like being authentic doesn't give us the right to be mean to somebody or to push our beliefs on them. You know, I don't want to use that as an example. Um, okay, so like seeds, mindset, let's talk manifestation. Let's use manifestation, right? So you can't, tell somebody that they have to manifest this if that's not their manifestation, you know? And yeah, you can plant a seed in a gentle, kind way, but it's not okay I, I think that runs a risk of being judgy and, aligns with that judgmentalness, because we don't have our own filter. And the mouth can be a huge sword. And even if we feel like we're being our authentic self, I mean, I would never want to tell somebody, oh, you look fat today. Because, or I don't like your hair, because then we're placing our inner critic onto that person and projecting it onto them and not allowing them to be like their authentic self. So there's a difference between telling somebody how they're supposed to be and shaming them for the way they are because you don't agree with it versus being authentic and meeting them where they are and maybe trying to understand it. You don't even have to understand it. You don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like everything somebody else does. But it's not up to me, to put them into that box and just throw all of my crap at them either. Does that
And
answer?
yeah. And it's also the ego, our woundings and our pride, like
Our traumas.
our traumas. And I always think of, I've mentioned this before, um, but I read a book by Father Richard Rohr called The Art of Letting Go, Living the Life of St. Francis of Assisi. And in it, he talks about, I pray every day. I don't need to be right. It's not about me. I don't need to win. And so when that comes out, that can be somebody's need to be right. Somebody needs to win over you. And they're like, I'm just being authentic and you need to do this. But that's not authenticity. Authenticity is letting go of your ego,
Yeah,
being
that's
who
kind of
you
like a
are.
power thing.
Yes. And that's where like trying to explain this, it, people won't get it until they're at that place to receive it, to get it. So you would
Yes.
say this to somebody and like your ego and blah blah blah, and they're like, "What?"
They get defensive.
Yeah, but they might not
You
even
you
know what
can't,
all that means.
yeah,
Like,
you can't. And it's strange that you asked me that question because I had somebody ask me that question just a couple hours ago. And
no.
I was like, let me get back to you later because I was like, they're like, what's the difference between authenticity and exactly that thing? And it was that exact scenario had played itself out. And I was like, you're being judgy. That's a judgmental thing. And I think a lot of that is because we're they don't tell us what authenticity is. Again, it goes back to this box that
Box.
they try to put us in, right?
You
You
have
have
to
to go
be
to
a certain way. You
yes,
have to be good at school in the way that they've created it, which not everyone learns that way or can do
right.
that. You have to, for me, it was like, oh, I'm not married with 2.5 kids in my, at age 20. And for like in the church, they don't force it, but it's very much a thing that's like they talk
That
about.
judgmental thing.
And so I didn't fit. But now I know, Jamie, I'm 46 now. Oh, I wasn't meant to do that because my path is my path and it's taken me here. I wasn't meant to do those things. But when they try to like say, well, this is the way that it should be because God says so in the
Force you to do a
Bible,
program.
I'm like, well, thank God I didn't get married because it would have been a nightmare for me. I would have become
Listen,
like the shell of a person because I would have married an abusive man
hey,
with who I
and
was at that time, right?
yeah, and I think that they should have more spaces for people that you know, that don't fit into that box. And I don't, you see some of the labels like, yeah, we're autistic, we're HSP, but at the end of the day, we're still people, and we don't. Everybody learns differently, and they teach us how to learn, or but only what they want us to learn. And then they don't really teach people how to listen
Or how to
in
think.
school, right, to think for themselves. And um, they don't really teach you how to hear and to
Mhm.
pick up on things. And these are the real things that once we become an adult, we have to know how to do. And then you get into this situation and you're like, you're used to just talking, talking, talking. And, you're not really listening to the other people. And I think that also becomes the fear, um, and helps people not to be authentic because then they think that this is what they have to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a fun and meaningful gift for the little ones this Christmas? My children's books, What Should Dragon Do? And Fairy Garden Adventures, Zara's Treasure Troubles, are full of imagination, heart, and gentle lessons about kindness, courage, and learning from our mistakes. They're perfect for bedtime stories, stocking stuffers, or cozy holiday reading by the tree. You can find the link here in the show notes or just search on Amazon under Stephanie Ann Webb and bring a little extra magic and meaning to your child's Christmas this year. Yeah. I was talking to a woman in Australia, and apparently the school system there is really good. Uh, because I think I was mentioning something, I don't know, that I don't remember here. That oh, I learned that in grade four probably. And so people are shocked, like, Stephanie, you don't remember all your provinces and capital cities in Canada? I got in trouble once from a woman who was doing her Canadian citizenship. I'm like, you're studying this as an adult. I learned this in grade four, and we don't talk about it every day. But also, I memorized to pass the test. So, Jamie, I didn't absorb information. I memorized to pass the
Right.
test and get a good enough grade that I wouldn't get in trouble.
And then it's poof, gone.
That's the education. So when people are like, this is basic science, I'm like, dude, don't even ask me about basic science. I have no idea. I studied to pass the test and get the right answer.
There
And
you go.
I
There you
think
go.
that's what it is in North America, really. It's my understanding.
I think that that is a lot of how it is. Um, I recently came across a school that does things, kind of differently because they said that had become such a huge issue. So this place, it's a college, right? So, like typical college, you take like 4 to 6 classes at a time, over 8 to 12 weeks. And literally, you're doing just that. You're memorizing stuff to pass the test. But how much are you retaining? So, this school took it a step further and they said, no, you do one class for 6 weeks. Every 6 weeks, you do one class. So, literally, you're only focused on one class and absorbing that knowledge from that class before you move into something else. And I was like, wow, what an amazing thing to do because it helps you absorb it.
That's brilliant.
It
It's
is
re
brilliant.
it's ridiculous. When I went into university first year, they wanted you to take six classes, and I had to go down part-time because I was like, I just can't do this. And even then, and my history professor, he said, you need to read the text three times. First before class and then twice after the lecture. I'm thinking, dude, we have other classes.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, but it was so boring. I go there for I pay for you to teach me. I'm not paying to read the textbook, which is so muddled and like just fancy word. Just no, give me the real stuff.
Right.
I don't know. That's
Right.
how I learn. I'm not, I tried to be all fancy and I'm like, I'm
I
not the
can't,
fancy university person.
no, and I can't just read something because then I'm going to want to know how it works or why it works. And can you show me like this? Because if I can't see it, then I don't understand it. So it's
My
reading something, I'm not just going to take it.
my favorite professor was one of the philosophy professors, and he would have these like he would get out the board and he would have all these uh examples. Like he's like, well, this is like a bagel machine where it's like this, or this is like this. And he
Right.
would
So
have
you
like
could
these
see it.
diagrams because that's how he learned. And really identified with that because when it's just writing notes from the classroom,
Right.
it's like, oh, blah, 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 boring. But other students learn better that way, and they didn't like all the
Right.
visuals.
Right.
So
Because it might have been distracting.
yeah, so it's fascinating. Like that for me was helpful, but for other students, they did not find it helpful. And that's where when you have just this one way, not everyone's going to be able to, that's not their best fit. And so I don't know how we work around that, but thankfully we have the YouTube now. When I was in high school, I would have really been helped by watching science videos on YouTube. Because now, just having the textbook of the teacher, I was lost. I'm like, I don't know.
I like that we've got, social media like YouTube and learning tools like that to supplement people who want more, to see somebody go through it. And it definitely just made me think of like I know that schools are integrating like AI and some of those tools. And I can see like in some ways how they'll be helpful in that, but in other ways, I can also see how it may take somebody's authenticity away if they rely too much on external resources instead of internal alignment.
That's a really great point. The authenticity and AI. Do you do you feel like, because you and I both use like ChatGPT and we use AI as tools. Have you ever come to a point where you thought you were using it too much and you felt it was taking away your authenticity? Or have you ever been battling that?
Okay, so yes and no. So I had this huge mental block on AI when it first came. I wouldn't touch it. I didn't want it on my phone. I didn't want to read nothing. All them stupid dashes. I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. Everything is fake. Um, to, you know, one of my teammates walking me through and sitting me down. She's like, here, tell me something. And then she sent me something and she's like, see, I just helped. And I was like, okay. So I think that if it's used properly, for me, if I don't use it as a crutch, if I make sure that I'm writing down, my thoughts, um, and over 75, 80, whatever percent is good, because you don't even want to say that, because for some people they might think that 50% is authentic, here, blah, 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 blah. I think that it's easy to feel like that. Um, and I think that there's a very fine line there. And I mean, come on, we've all seen Terminator, you know? We, we're
They
like,
warned us.
I'm like, man, that was my thought. I'm like, man, I've seen Terminator. I know how this goes, and I don't want no part of it. And but then there's other ways where it's super helpful, you know? So it's like, I think that the fine line has to be individualistic. Um, so what might be okay for one person and feel okay for one might not for somebody else. But then maybe it's just for that season. Maybe that's a step in their growth process. It is so hard to say. I can see good and bad, but I definitely see an issue with authenticity because people can do a lot with AI that, yeah.
I've had situations where I felt I was being fake because if I'm going through brain fog or mental just like wow, um, I can't even think to write. But I have ideas. So I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, I want to write a post about this. This is what I wanted to say, but like, or I have a post, but it's maybe really defensive because I'm angry about something. And I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, help me take away the defensiveness. Um, but I feel still fake about it because I'm like, it's not my words. But then I'm like, but it's my ideas and it's just helping me as a tool. And I feel like as an adult, that's okay what it's because we had to learn those skills as kids. And the kids
Right.
using it to just get out of not learning is dangerous because they're setting themselves up for failure because they're not learning and they're not going to have any skills if they utilize it for everything. It is tricky, and I don't envy the people who have to work on legislating all of this. That's a lot.
So what my brain goes into rabbit holes with this stuff, right? So what happens when now this is hypothetical, okay? Like I said, I've seen Terminator. Hypothetically, what happens when anything that we've created on social media and posted, that if it's got anything that's not our voice, what happens when they either start charging for that, and saying, "Oh, you used our stuff. Now you have to pay because you got all of these likes or all of these people to follow you." Um, or they take it all away. And then, like you said, it leaves people where they don't know how to think for themselves and they don't know how to talk to people or all of that because that's all they used, you know? So, like, there's so many avenues
And I think
of
because
that.
people are relying on it, I see ads all the time for businesses. Ah, just sit back and watch the thing do it all for you. But the funny thing is, the people who say this is saving them time, I feel like they're busier than ever because they're having to keep up. They're constantly doing this and this and this, and I'm like, I don't know. I'd
It's
rather
just
do it
quicker and
my
easier to
way.
do it yourself.
I feel like I don't know. I'm a slower type of person. I don't like the hustle. I don't, um, but for me to feel like also a sense of accomplishment to work through, it
Yes.
takes me hours to write like an article. And sometimes I'm really pissed at it. I'm like, rah, I don't know. But at the end, I'm like, oh, I did it
I
myself.
did that.
And
I
yes,
did
I
that
use chat. I say chat GPT. I say, don't touch it. Just I'm putting it in here, but like, um, is it flowing
format.
well? Am I, yeah, like an editor.
Right.
But I say don't, and I will still go back and edit it myself because I'm like, no, it has to be my voice. Um,
Right.
because I don't really have somebody who could just edit it for me but even then it's subjective too.
Right, because how we might want something portrayed might not be how somebody else thinks it should be portrayed.
Exactly. And my one friend, she wrote a book and called Why Are You Happy? And uh, I read it and I had little notes here. She goes, "Oh, thanks." But she wanted it to be hers because my edit was just, I mean, mostly it was just like, oh,
Right,
this word is missing an R or something. But no, because that was she wanted it to be authentically
right,
hers. And me putting in other things was my perception of what I thought, you know.
right.
And I grew up with a grammar Nazi. My dad is a grammar Nazi. So I was always like, oh, this is bad grammar, you know. But also, I write bad grammar too because I forget how it works sometimes. But nobody cares
That's
as much now.
that's funny because I'll go through stuff and I'll do the same. I'll be like, and I'll put all them symbols and everything on there that they teach you, and I'll be like, and I dissect everything, and it's like, oh,
Oh, and
it's
I want to
okay to be
clarify.
grammar Nazi.
Yeah. My friend's book is amazing and she did an amazing job. It was just like the littlest things that I was finding for what I would do, but she's, she's like, it's actually going to be just what and I was like, that's brilliant because you put
It's
out
her authentic
who you
self.
are and what you want to put out. And what she wrote was brilliant, but you know what I mean? Like it's subjective too with the editing. So anyways, but yeah, I sometimes feel fake about it if I'm using it, but I'm like, well, it's a tool, but like you were saying, it's a fine line. But
Yes.
I think for me, I don't want to lose my creativity. If I use it as a crutch, then I'm going to just go continuously go back. Oh, it's just easier. It's just easier. And I don't want to lose that for myself, the hard work of working through what am I trying to say?
I feel like that sometimes with the phone. Like, I don't want who's my true self, you know. And I remember when it was simple to just leave. And I understand why we have phones and everything, right? But we kind of carry around a mini computer with us, and everything is at our fingertips all the time, you know? So are we being authentic and staying in the moment, or are we becoming the authentic person that, oh, I have to check my phone because my phone's going off? And is that really authenticity to our human nature? Or is it just because that's the way it's been ingrained in us?
And the addiction part of it. That's a great
It is
point.
real. And that's a real thing.
That's a great
Be-
point.
because I can remember going on a cruise a couple years back and literally like the very thought of not having my phone on that ship because you have to pay for Wi-Fi like freaked me out. I was like, "What do you mean I can't? But I'm gonna ruin my streak." And I was so
Which one, Wordle or
no, girl,
Duolingo?
I was still reading a religious application with a couple friends that I read back then, and I was on like a 4 year streak, and
I get that because I cannot lose my Wordle streak. That's the because it's
part of
exciting.
the
It's like
addiction.
an accomplishment. Yes,
Yep,
that's how they
yep.
get us too. Oh my gosh.
I recently started going through my phone and deleting some of my apps and uninstalling my apps that like I don't use anymore. And you know, I put them on my computer, so they're still there. That, but removing the space from my phone and removing my pictures from my phone and printing some of them because at the end of the day, I was like. Talk about authenticity. Nobody's going to have any pictures of their family when everybody dies because everybody keeps their pictures on their phone. So literally 30, 40 years from now, when you're going through and you're trying to find pictures of your great great grandparents, well, I'm sorry, they passed with your relative on their phone because they never shared them with any, you know?
Or they were just
And
people on Snapchat with the little doggy ears, like the not
yes,
nice
like, are
picture.
we really taking pictures of people or are we just being what we think others want to see?
Or my phone is filled with screenshots of things on. I'm like, that's a great quote, and then I never use it. Or
Yeah, and then you've got all these screenshots in with your pictures and it,
yeah, and then my
girl.
Google storage or whatever iCloud. It's like you have to upgrade. I'm like, no, I have to
Mm.
delete. I'm not upgrading. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, that's
Stop
me.
it.
I'm like,
Did I
I
lose you?
said, yeah, I'm
Oh,
no, I'm here. I said, I'm not, because they keep trying to do, you have 1% and blah, blah, blah. I'm no, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Delete, 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 delete.
but and this is I've had friends really help me understand this. It's the influence. And I was so easily influenced because I grew up in a well, most of us were, right? We're not taught media literacy. We're not taught to think for ourselves. We're not taught that we don't need this because the media and all of that, they're telling us we need this. They're telling us this is the only way. You need this. You're too ugly. You're too fat. You're not good enough. You need this. And then we buy into it and we're influenced and like, oh, you need, oh, blah, blah, blah. They're feeding the addiction. And I am now at the point where if somebody tells, like my friend Katie jokes, don't tell Stephanie what she has to do because I'm so allergic to it
She'll
right
do the
now.
opposite.
I just get so mad. I'm like, don't tell me what to do. And if you tell me I have to download another app, no, I am sick of apps. Leave me alone. I'm deleting, like you said, I'm deleting them from my phone because
Yes,
you know me, Jamie. I'm allergic to um, these new things. I'm like, oh, another thing online. No, I don't want to do that.
right,
I want
right.
simple. I want pen and paper days. And I know I sound like really old with that, but it's also for my mind, I want simple. I have been overwhelmed for my life and I am tired of it. I want simple. And so
Yes.
most of we do because that's why one of the reasons why we have so much mental health problems. I mean, among many others, but one of them is just there's too much going on with everything we're being fed. We're overloaded and overwhelmed.
Yeah, we never stop and slow down.
No,
Like walking outside, enjoying nature without a phone.
without a phone.
without a phone. Because even if we're not looking at it, it still gives off those waves, right? And we feel that. So literally, when's the last time we actually no, see, now that I said that, I'm gonna have to go for a walk on the bike trail without my phone and leave it locked in the car. We'll come back.
Well, oh, and this is another thing, the step tracker. And I tell it, stop it, because it'll shame you. You didn't take as many steps this week.
Yes,
And I'm like, well, it was winter and it was icy outside. So if I'm on the treadmill, I don't want the phone in my pocket. And who are you to tell me what I'm doing? I might not have you on me when I'm doing any
right.
other exercise. So stop shaming me. I actually get
I
mad at it.
wear a pedometer. Just clip a little pedometer to you.
Yeah.
I
Or just don't care about the steps. Just go for the
Right, because
walk.
literally it's just about being in the moment, you know?
And it all ties
Or
together.
it does.
Authenticity, being present, finding ourselves, awareness, not being influenced, healing, growing. Like that's where we find our authentic self is coming back to
To the root.
ourselves.
Yeah. And knowing that it's really an individual choice. Like, I, I mean, I can't make nobody else's decisions, you know? And at the end of the day, when we each go home, yeah, some of us have people, but when we close our eyes, we have to be okay with us. And it's not going to matter what anybody else thinks about you or what they tell you you have to do or don't have to do. Because at the end of the day, when you close your eyes, have I loved well enough? Have I loved myself well enough? Not just about loving other people well enough, but have I been kind to myself? And am I okay to close my eyes without having that fear and shame and to be like, yes, I lived my most authentic self today? Or maybe noticing, how you weren't authentic. I keep a little journal at night, like literally I'll write down I am letting go of everything here and I'll do a brain dump every night just to get that out of my mind so that when I'm sleeping, I'm not holding on to that. I let it go. That's something that works for me only because if not, I don't want to wake up with all that stuff on my mind. Like I want to wake up and be like peaceful and you know it's like getting out of bed and stubbing your foot. If you stub your foot, you know what happens. Rah, 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 rah. But you can carry that into your whole day if you're not careful, is what I'm saying. Because that stubbing your foot can cause you to like explode on other people in your house, explode on other animals, whoever is in your vicinity until you're like, let that go. It doesn't matter. And you can restart your day at any point. So it's like, do you let something small control you, or do you stay grounded, from, yeah.
That's brilliant. Yep.
I
I,
used to tell, go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead.
I used to tell my clients, to use positive self-affirmations, right? But what's the one place that everybody goes to in the morning?
The
The
bathroom.
bathroom, right? So I used to tell them to get a marker, like an erasable, dry erase marker, because you can write on mirrors with a dry erase marker and it will come right off. And I used to tell people, write a positive affirmation on your bathroom mirror every morning and say it out loud to yourself. But the act of writing it down and getting it out of your head and saying it while you're doing it makes it stick. So then if something happens bad throughout the day, you can train yourself to come back and to remember that positive affirmation. And sometimes it's simple as being, I am enough. I am my authentic self, just to pull you out and help stay grounded in your own authenticity. I know that that's a tool that has worked for me.
Coming back to that, because that's how I started with affirmations. Now, then when I would say I'm speaking affirmations, people would say, well, you have to feel them. You have to feel them, Stephanie. I'm like, okay, I know because now I'm at the point where, Jamie, I can feel it. But when you're starting out, you're not going to feel it right away. You're not going to feel like if you're saying, like one of my affirmations was, I have a voice and that voice matters. I never felt it. I was terrified every time I did a podcast. But saying it and then that popping up when something fearful and having that there to remind myself, then the feeling comes later. So I think, like, when we were talking about people just saying stuff to you, I'm like, yeah, but people are not going to feel it necessarily right away because their nervous system is not regulated. So just start and stop telling everyone it has to be this way. Sorry, I get really riled up about this, but it's because it's been so painful for me every time I have had, and I know I had to go through this so that I could learn and understand, but it's been hard because every time I tried to do, and people would just talk at me and talk down to me, and I'm like, I don't want to be like that. And you have to know that we're all at different levels. So
Levels.
you might be perfect coach up here. Sometimes they talk like they figured
Right.
everything out and they're all perfectly healed. I'm like,
I'd
okay,
like to talk to some of those coaches and actually like get to and just like yeah.
that's not also the person, because I would see those people. I'm like, wow, they've made it. And I'm all the way down
Right.
here. No,
Yeah.
they're human just like you. They've come through stuff, or, they've healed, or maybe they didn't have that much to go through as much as somebody over here. Maybe they were born
Right.
in a more privileged, healthy home than somebody. That's where it's like we're all starting at different places.
And
Um,
it's okay to be on different rungs of the ladder.
and it's okay, but it's also, when people would, or when, and people say this because they don't really know. Um, but you say, "Oh, I'm struggling with this." Well, I don't struggle with that. And it's like, "Oh, good for you." I mean, okay. But and I know I've done it too, right? But then when you have that awareness going, "Okay, this person's struggling. I don't need to say anything about I don't struggle with
Just
that."
allow them to process and
Allow them.
talk about it.
and, and that's why I love talking with people like you because we can have these conversations. I know you don't talk down to me, and I know that I don't want to talk down to people. And so I think that's where the coaching industry is actually headed because people are really tired of the fake
And being
authenticity of
talked
like,
at.
I have it all figured out and I'm going to tell you. And that's also the personal growth kind of arena as well. There's this whole talking down to people. We have the answer for you. And I
Right.
go, I get you. You don't have the answers for people. You have what worked for you and you're
Right.
marketing it, but it's not working for everybody because we're all different. And I think
Yes.
that is changing because people are really tired of it.
I also find that a lot of those places have gotten so AI ingrained that literally it's just like a screen that you watch and that's it feels very inauthentic to me and just icky. It gives me that feeling in the root of my stomach and my sacral that I just know that I know that I know that it's not right for me. And I think that you're right. I think it's moving more into the authentic spot because people want to be able to talk to people. They want to feel understood. They don't want to feel shamed. They want to be talked with and not talked at. And I think that there's a shift that's naturally occurring and I'm grateful to be part. it- Like I didn't have to shift. I've been in that.
And this is why you're here at this time of the world to be a part of it, right? Which is really exciting. Sometimes we go,
It,
why was I born at this time? Because we were born at this time to be here because we're needed at this time.
yeah, we weren't needed. I mean, we were, but they weren't ready for it all then. And now it's circling back around. And you too, Steph. Like I want to just I want to say thank you because you continue to be an amazing friend and, business partner. And it's easy for us to get caught up in you're not doing it right because we don't have the ability to go do all this and to go to all these places or to publish here and there. And it's easy to get caught up and for our imposter syndrome to take over. And I want you to know that I see that. And you're a fantastic author. You're a great speaker. You're a great friend. You're a great business partner. And I am so grateful to have you in my life. And when you find those authentic relationships, they're not, I mean, they're out there, but they're not easy to find, where somebody doesn't think, well, if I'm not talking to you all day, every day, then it's not okay. But no, authenticity is about allowing each other to be themselves in the moment. And you've always given me the space to do that. So,
Oh, you too. You, I remember at first I was really nervous because I was like, oh no, I didn't do the thing that I told Jamie I would do. And then I thought you'd be mad at me, um, like literally my whole life. It was like, Stephanie, you're not fast enough or whatever. Um, and then you don't do that. And I was like, oh, you're safe, you know? My nervous system felt safe. And I was like, oh, good, yay. Also, you and I always tend to cry when we're talking.
yeah, it's
Oh,
emotional, but you know what? You know what that does? It softens our face.
oh, then I must have really soft cheeks because I cry
Me,
constantly
right, me too.
and laugh. I'm gonna get frown lines. I don't have frown lines yet. Oh no, no, that's for frowning. Wait,
I,
what are the
I got
laughing lines?
enough.
Oh, Jamie, this is so much fun. And I'm gonna put all your information in the show link in the show links
Okay.
in the show notes.
Okay.
But what's the best place that people can find you, reach out to you?
Um, I I would say probably within the Safe to Talk to community, that's where I'm most present at. I'm in there, throughout the day. And for those of you who don't know, Safe to Talk to is it's a community space where we offer tools and just great conversation and connection. We've got a whole bunch of good things coming up in there. Um, I am available at email. Support at safe to talk to coaching.online. Um, but usually it's going to be through the community group, because that's
Yeah.
where I'm most.
Join our Facebook community group. Um, and I always ask my guests, what's some words of wisdom you would like to leave the listeners with, or an
I
encouragement?
I would like everybody to know that you're not broken and don't let the world to tell you that you're broken. We're not here to fix you. We're just here to help you walk along your journey. We need connections. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jamie. And thank you
Thank you
for
so
helping
much,
me
Dad.
close out season 4 of the Stuff Up podcast.
Woo!
Yay!
Namaste, my girl. Love
Thank,
you.
thank you guys for listening. Sending love to you all. Bye.